Hello. I'm sure we've all seen military parades around the world, from China, North Korea, or Russia, where soldiers are marching in unison, showing off their military power and weapons, and sending a message to the world about our power and don't mess with us. If not only meant to intimidate the enemies, but also gives the soldiers a confidence boost. But today I'd like to share with you about another parade, not of military strength, but a parade of faith, when confronted with the total impossible obstacle. This parade exemplifies a paradox of what happens when an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object. The writer of Hebrews tells us a little bit about this faith. In Hebrews 11:1 it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." And this parade I want to talk to you about happened over 3,000 years ago, when there was an immovable object, a fortress, called Jericho. It was the most important city in the Jordan Valley and the strongest fortress in all the land of Canaan. Jericho was in existence 8,000 years before Christ, and it has stood for over 6,700 years before Joshua crossed the Jordan. The first mention in the Bible concerning the existence of this place was about 1240 BC. And one day, 6 miles away from Jericho, the orders were given by Joshua to the soldiers of Israel to prepare for battle. It actually was their first great battle in the Promised Land. So they dressed up as they had in battles before, in their armors, and sharpened up their swords. But they faced a losing battle because their weapons were no match against that immovable object. Walls, powerful walls, thick walls, of which no sword or hammer could fight against. And so when they arrived to the battlefield, their orders were very strange and different. It says in Joshua chapter 6 and verse 10, it says, "And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, You shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day I bid you to shout, then you shall shout." Because every battle started with the soldiers shouting at the top of their voices to try to instill fear into the enemy. But Joshua said, don't fight. Don't try to attack the walls. Don't try to strike fear with your shouts. Just walk. Parade in front of the enemy. Let them see your God that you proudly hold on the shoulders of your priests with the emblem of the Ark of the Covenant. And let them hear the declaring shouts of the trumpets and the shofars, the ram horns sounded by the priests, who are the prophets of God, because they were in his presence and God spoke through them. And don't look or speak to those that are on the walls, the spectators. Just march. And oh, how the spectators mocked the ignorance of these people with puny swords walking around their huge fortress. What futility of thinking that this parade of godliness would affect that establishment so well rooted that ancient structure that nobody had been able to topple. In these past weeks, we've been talking about asymmetric battles used by God, used by the enemy. But there are also asymmetrical battles that we must fight, that we must be a part of. And they're not like we think they are or should be, because we look at the natural things of this world for a clue to how to fight against this world. And this is a battle of faith, very active, very intense. And yet we don't actually take action in this battle of faith. Like the battle of Jericho. The ark was being taken on the shoulders, and they believed that the action day would bring victory when that day came. And sounding the trumpet was a way of their enunciating or declaring what they thought would be the end result, a declaration of faith of the victory. And no, they did not sound the trumpets all the time or every day. No, not at all. But when they did, they declared the word of the Lord. It was believing, that parade was. Believing in the midst of an impossible situation. Because Jericho, everyone knew, it was an impregnable, unmutable, unmovable fortress. Jericho represented that established structure made by man. They were so confident that that structure they had built was impregnable because it had resisted so many attacks and armies for almost close to 7,000 years. And in stark contrast to Jericho was Israel, a nation of nomads who had no roots, no city, no fortress. They lived in tents. They only had a God and followed his words. And the priests that followed the high priest, that was also the prophet, he led the way. He was the one that had on his shoulders the stones that lit when God's presence was with them. And even before they crossed the Jordan, God spoke to Joshua, and it's recorded in the first chapter, verse 9 of Joshua. And God said to Joshua, "Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest." Be strong. 3 times it says in that chapter that God told Joshua to be strong. To be strong, the Hebrew word chazak, means to grab hold, to lay hold of, with courage, to be courageous, to be obstinate, to fasten upon, to hold on obstinately and not let go. And good courage, the word is amatz, and it means to be alert, on foot, mentally, to be well grounded with a firm footing. Be strong, good courage, hold on, don't dismay, do not concede, do not let go. And when you can walk no more, just hold on, keep holding on. Be strong and brave. And when your strength is lacking or your valor, the one who goes before you, the one that lives within you, will be strong. When you can be strong no longer, his strength will support you. And the word that God gave to Joshua to be strong and of good courage, he meant hold on, don't let go. Don't stop. No matter what happens, do not give up. Never surrender the faith. Never concede. Don't let go, especially when things look impossible. The hardest thing for us to do is to be still and know that He is God. To be actively still, it seems a contradiction to be active and to be still. It doesn't mean to be quiet and lazy or procrastination. Not very long ago, I was with my family and my grandchildren. We were having a picnic there by a river. And some ducks came flying in and landed on the waters of the river just beside us. And even though the water was moving, they were still motionless, peacefully enjoying the water flowing past. And it looked like they were anchored to that spot. They would not be taken back by the water. They were still floating on the surface of the water. But underneath, I know that their feet were full of action. They were paddling against that current with all their might. But to those that looked outside, as us, they were still. And oh, what a beautiful illustration that was of what active faith should be and what true faith is. That means wanting to do something, but having the discipline to obey when He says, don't fight. Just believe, be still. In 6 days, they marched in silence. And we read in verse 14, it says, chapter 6, and the second day they compassed the city once and returned to the camp, and so did that they for 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only that day they compassed the city 7 times. And Joshua's soldiers, I can just imagine them, as they were commanded not to say a word, not to speak, but just to look straight ahead as they marched firmly. And because they were marching, I can just imagine the movement of their banners. And what banner would that be? What banner would be the banner of our faith? As we uphold that banner, which in every war is the prize of the battle. The enemy always tries to take away that banner. It's the emblem of what we are, what we stand for. Those wonderful fruits of God and of His Spirit. That unique flag, because it represents love, hope, and faith. The opposite of what Jericho stands for. But as any flag or emblem, it needs wind to unfurl and show its splendor. And I can just imagine as those soldiers march forward, those emblems begin to unfurl. And when the wind, which in Greek is pneuma, the same word that's used for God's Spirit, when it begins to blow upon us and rises up within us, it shows the splendor of its design. And according to Epistle to the Galatians in chapter 5, we're told that the emblem has the fruits of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And those fruits are contrasted so strongly with the other fruits, the works of the flesh, which we read in the beginning of that chapter. How different was the standard. How different was what they stood for. God's people and the people of Jericho, with all their wickedness and all their idolatry. Song of Solomon says that his banner over me is love. Every day they marched. Every day they returned the 5-mile trek back home. Every day a movable object. Every day seeming defeat. Day after eventful day they marched. And oh, how it wears you down after having marched, after having obeyed, after having believed, to return home with your head down. Well, how did it go today? Well, it didn't go good. In fact, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Well, tomorrow's going to happen. And tomorrow they went back. Again, they had to come back. Well, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Well, did you march? Yes. Did you obey? Yes. Did you have faith? Yes. Well, then things should happen. And every day their expectations were wearing more and more thin. Every day that they thought, surely we will see some change today. Things will move. Things will happen. We'll be able to see some evidences that we're winning. And yet, nothing happened. And their expectations were dashed time and time again. They needed a miracle, just like we need a miracle in America today. I want you to hear this song before we continue. Six marches. And when the seventh day, seventh is the name of heavenly perfection, of divinity, God's perfect day, ordained day, and yet they didn't know. All they know is when they were ready to go home, they were told, let's go around another time. Okay, this time it'll be. And the second time they went around Jericho. They were tired, but he said, just keep on going another time, and the third time, and the fourth time. and the 5th time, and the 6th time. And oh, they were so tired. I'm sure they were discouraged. I'm sure they said, what difference does it make? What difference does another round make? And yet, when that 7th day arrived, and the order was to intensify the non-battle, to intensify the stillness, to intensify the do-nothing, to intensify the declaration that we are here, that we believe, that things will change, that God is with us, that God will give us the victory, to declare who He is, who we are, and that this is how we fight our battles, and this is who we follow, and this is what we believe, because the battle is the Lord's. And when it came past, verse 16 says, at the 7th time, something changed. The priests blew with their trumpets, and Joshua said to the people, now shout, for the Lord hath given you the city. Oh, at least something changed. The priests were blowing their trumpets, and they did so. And now they were able to open their mouth and shout that the Lord hath given us the city. The city is ours, they shouted. It does not belong to you. Our God is victorious. Yes, it is it not written, not by power, nor by might, but by His Spirit. This unmovable object, unmovable mountain, shall be brought down by the unstoppable force. The solid, evil establishment of Jericho would be shaken, and its walls would crack and sink into the ground. And it says, verse 16, it came to pass when they shouted. In verse 20, so the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets. They declared, they prophesied, and shouted. Oh, what a noise, what a deafening noise it must have been. And it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall, it moved. The wall fell down, flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. Oh yes, the battle is of the Lord. Don't tire of parading your faith. Don't tire of marching, for this is how we fight our battles. The parade of faith, every day, every night, every next day, we do not give up, for we will be strong. We will hold on. We will be courageous. We will not concede our faith, for the Lord God is with us. May the Lord strengthen every one of you in this hour. Strengthen each one of your hearts in the midst of these so special times, so dangerous times, so frightening times. May He raise your spirits, revive your faith, when tomorrow you must go back and go around that big, strong fortress. For He is with us, with each and every one of us. His strength and His presence will be with you in your heart. So parade your faith in stillness, and hope will be our victory. This is how we fight our battles. God bless you.
This is how I fight. The Lord brought us out from Egypt. Promised us this land. Soon, it will be ours.